Hey everyone. So, right now me and Heather are staying at a location recommended to us by Charlie. We reached out to him and he suggested some places, kind of like a safe house, somewhere where we could stay while we try to find Alex. Now, today I want to share with you something that Heather and I have known about for quite some time now. After the drop off in Massachusetts in 2015, where we got a hold of all of Daniel Shipman's possessions, his computer, his documents, all kinds of stuff that we got from him. One of them is this book here. Um, Now, we call it the Brown Book, me and Heather do. Uh, and that's not to be confused with this book, which is the very same black book that we received all those years ago. I think it's almost 8 years now when we received this. Now, of course, the black book was a treasure trove of information as well. This basically taught us everything that we know about the order that we couldn't glean from Heather later on. Now, this other book right here, this is incredibly enlightening. Now, there is a organization within the order called the Sixth Enclave. It's been mentioned many times before, and I'm sure that many of you may not be entirely sure what exactly that group is, what that faction believes, what they want. We didn't know either for quite some time, but this book that we received from Daniel Shipman, it, well, I'm going to read it in its entirety to everyone today. I think it's very important that everyone knows exactly what's going on, exactly what we're up against, and the kind of danger that Alex is in right now. Currently, he, I'm assuming, is being held by the Order, if he's still alive, just as I was. But it's just very important that we reach him. Now, I've always felt very close with everyone out there. You've done so much for us in the past, helping us figure out things that we couldn't have done on our own. And the fact that in some respects you kind of don't really know exactly what's going on. I just felt, I felt the need to do something about that. I spoke with Heather about it. She was initially pretty reluctant, but she agreed to share the whole truth with everyone. So, with all that being said, I will read the contents of this book. So everything that you hear from this point forward is the words of the text. The book is titled The Revelations of Mark McComber to the Sixth Enclave. Through this document, I wish to atone for my sins. This is part one. The author. My name is Mark McComber. I am the oracle of the esoteric brotherhood known as the Order. I am the seer who divined the cycles. I am the one who witnessed the Princeton experiment. I saw friends and colleagues devoured in a blinding light. I saw the birth of the entity that the Order calls Goraleotep. That day forth, I have felt my mind and body changing. From that moment, I have never been the same. I can see visions of the past and future. Sometimes, I feel as though I go to places lost in time. I wander through this dream like a specter or a shadow. It is often hard to tell where my visions end and reality begins. Though I fall through cracks in time against my will, I fight for a sense of agency. My actions may seem erratic and I am oftentimes bewildered, but I will attest to the fact that at this moment now, as I write, I have a keen sense of clarity. My mind is in the here and now, and I am able to reflect on all that I have witnessed, the past, the present, and the future. Never in my life have I felt more aware. I am fighting to stay in this moment. I must write what I can now before I slip away again. Before I digress, I must apologize to those that I love who still yet live. To my son, Joseph, I am sorry I led you astray in your youth. I am sorry I was absent from your life, if not in body, at least in mind and spirit. I can only hope that you will one day read my words and know in your heart that what I say in this document is true. Do not follow the old way of the order. It will only lead to suffering. To my granddaughter, Heather, as I have tried to atone for my own sins by intervening in the lives of those you know and love, I have passed my sins on to you. You have been swept up in this deadly game, and I hope that you will one day find peace. Your courage gives me strength. You make me very proud, and I am so very sorry. To those who read this now, I was deceived by the order and its overseers from the very beginning, just like many of you. After I survived the horrors of the Princeton experiment, I strove for meaning and fought to retain my sanity. How could I not be lost in this world after witnessing such things? I was approached by the order who claimed to know the purpose of my struggle. It was then that I began feeling lost in the present and present in the future. The order instructed me to document what I saw in my visions. They claimed it was a gift granted to me by an ancient god. I had disappeared from the present. What I described became the cycles. The order is misguided and attribute false meaning to those premonitions, to the monster and its powers. They labor under delusions granted to them by a story from antiquity. I beg you, reader, to heed my words now. You are the last hope for the countless innocents who may soon perish. It's the end of part 1. Part 2, The Chosen. Those who are learned in the oral traditions of the order are quite familiar with the Chosen, the 3 servants of the monster who will bring about the beginning and the end of the cycles. I was the one who began telling this tale. I drew this information from my memories of future present and the ancient tomes I was given to interpret. However, I could not even comprehend my own experiences. I was blinded by my faith in the order, led by them down a path of zealotry which distorted the truth. For this reason, I could never see the fourth chosen, who was always there but invisible to my inner eye. The fourth chosen, the fourth chosen one is truly the most dangerous. I have been able to draw correlations between my visions and the traditions to find the true meaning that has been obfuscated for decades. Though forbidden for the order to record, I will first write the words I swore to secrecy, The words the order repeats only in the oral traditions. Understanding these visions is imperative. I no longer fear death. The first, the priest. The priest will speak the word of our Master. They will let the world know of his true presence and his true power. Their words will spring forth like a fountain forever. None will denounce the priest, for their words contain the eternal truth, undeniable and irrevocable. They will never cease their evangelism, even upon pain of death. The second, the Lamb. The Lamb will be the first to see our Master when the cycles begin anew. They are the first herald of the future present. The Lamb is sacrificed, so the priests can do their sacred work. Our Master will be the last thing the Lamb's eyes ever see. The death of the Lamb will bring about humanity's rebirth. The third, the slave. The slave is a part of the Master. They will sense him in ways others cannot. They will hear him when others cannot. They will know him more closely than any other human being. They are attuned to the Master's influence. Through the sight of the slave's eyes, the Master will plot his holy path that will lead us all to godhood. The slave will live our Master's work, but rail against him, forever a disobedient servant, as all mankind is. The slave is a vessel, crude and simple, incapable of accepting divinity in their imperfect form. The slave is the keystone to our sacred journey. I'm sure the faithful have heard these maxims before. The three chosen ones are legendary figures whose stories have been passed down for decades. It was said that their arrival would herald the beginning of the cycles, and so it has. It chose them to suit its needs and to control the others, those many of you hold close to your heart. Though I had warned that the harbingers may bring destruction to the order, they are the very same whose existence brings the monster's wrath. If the order truly are servants of their Master, the one I now call a monster, how could this be? There is another who I could not see before, but whose strength is unmatched. They are a part of the cycles, a part of the collective knowledge. Their influence is sinuous and threaded among us all, and so I add a fourth and final chosen, the Order. The Order will think themselves wise, a match for the monster's guile. They are arrogant enough to believe they understand the monster's being. The monster instructs its pawns, and the pawns do as they're told. The Order is an insect to the monster. It will lead its hive to destruction to suit the monster's grand plans. The Order thinks it can curry favor with the monster and assert its own will, its own dreams, its own interpretations of reality. But a god cannot betray its essence, and a god cannot be killed. The Order must be destroyed. It may very well be the most critical link in the chain of fate, but also the most difficult to break. I know this, for I have once tried and failed. I will recount words spoken by the first overseer. The past, present, and future exist all at once. Time is as physical and tangible as the human body. In the fourth world, all of time exists unchanging as a mountainside. Only through our imperfect perception do we detect the illusion of change, a kaleidoscope of the determinant. The course of time is set, and through our understanding of this universal fate we all share, we may achieve a peace and oneness with all things, a place without sorrow or fear, but eternal tranquility. This is the gift of the wanderer of the other place, the eternal one, Goreleotep. And end quote there. While the reality is obscured by superstition, there is a core truth to these words. That leads us to the next section, which is titled The Chain of Fate. Many of you have read my teachings, the words called sacred, that I wrote when I was fooled and misguided. Yet to many, even those reading this now, those words still seem as true and doubtless as the law of nature itself. However, the divine order of this universe demands atonement for these unnatural occurrences. There is meaning behind all that has happened. It is found within what I can now see in my clarity. It is found within the chain of fate. Every event I have foretold has come to pass because I have foretold it. Fate carries on uncompromised as the years pass. Had I not experienced those visions and transcribed the cycles all those many years ago, the present may be far different. I spoke, and so it came to pass. Those in the order who adhere to this prophecy dare not stray from the path that I, or the universal fate, have drawn for them. To stray from that path would mean abandonment of their quest for godhood and eternal unity. However, this holy path, the great trek, leads only to damnation. My visions were once foggy, but now they grow clearer and clearer still. If one thing can be changed in this series of events, perhaps the chain of fate can be broken. If one link is destroyed, so too must the others fall into disarray. This chaos, this collapse, is not to be feared. It is the only thing that may serve you and those you love from being consumed by that bright darkness I once saw. There is only one way to alter the course of fate and break the chain. The links must be destroyed absolutely. These links of the chain, the very same chosen who are entrapped in the cycles, they may wish to stray from their path, but they cannot. Their agency is a fabrication, a cruel joke cast upon them by fate. I cannot explain the reasons why, but fate remains uncompromised, and so I believe this to be true. However, you may operate outside of this chain. You are not entrapped in the cycles. You are not a link. You could see this play out, but you must not sit idle. You must cast away all the things you once thought you knew, all those many blasphemous words spoken by the false prophet I once was. Do not heed the overseers. Do not heed your arch-vassal. Heed only my desperate plea. I am the one who has seen your God. I am the one who knows of that creature's power and its evil. You must listen. This new path is not without its dangers. You will be deemed a heretic, and your life may be in danger. However, if you are to alter the course of fate, you must destroy the links of the chain. For the sake of others, innocents, who surely you wish to protect, sacrifices must be made. Those of you who have already braced for sacrifice and unseemly deeds, it is now up to you. You must stop the final harvest and the rite. If just a single link is broken, perhaps that will be enough to open a tangential path, one that is filled with hope for better things. That leads us to the next section, which is called The Fourth World. You have been told that beyond our own space and our time, there exist beings that are conscious of the fourth dimension. They see that everything exists at once and forever, the beings that you call Goreleotep. You have been told there is a oneness in that world beyond ours that will bring you and those that you love peace. It will bring humanity to the real heavens that had once only been imagined by poets and priests. It will unite the living and bring about forever life in the one soul, evolving humanity to the next stage of its existence. The gods of mankind could leave this plane of flesh forever, or return again to deliver the rest, the forgotten ones, to their salvation. You have been told that Goraleotep is the god of deliverance, of sacrifice, of eternal life, and the endless void. The fourth world, as you know it, is a lie. The monster is unknowable. He is merely death. The ultimate destination of the great trek of the monster's holy path is a fabrication, pieced together from myth, legend, and lost philosophies. It is not what I saw in that light the day the monster came to our world. The light was all-consuming, a beast in itself, the genesis of the greatest terror our world has ever known. I do not know what is beyond the rift. To think salvation awaits beyond that light is simply an act of hubris. Think of my story, the path that I have walked, and imagine what impossible tortures may await you in the rift, were it to be opened again. Meditate on these difficult truths, and steel yourself to face the oldest and truest enemy. The next section is called The Monster. The monster, the creature that the Order calls Goraleotep, is to be feared, but it is not to be obeyed. It is an unnatural sick stain of primal disorder that treats human beings with no regard. Even in the wisdom of my present clarity, I do not know the desires of the monster, but I have seen the terror it has cast upon this world, and I will not allow it to bring death to those among you. The blood of the few will not satiate its lust for the blood of the many. It will consume, it will rot the core of our world until there is nothing but ash. It must be stopped. And although I do not know how it can be eradicated, I think I know how to change the bloody future I have foreseen. The minds of your brothers and sisters are strong and stubborn. They seek a future in which none may suffer, death is forgotten, and peace lasts an eternity. And yet they are pursuing a future in which suffering and death comes to all, and they will be forced to face oblivion alone. This is the truth of the holy path, the great trek, a march towards death. I pray that you will now endeavor towards the truest goal and the future of hope in utmost secrecy. Your numbers will be few, and you will face odds that seem insurmountable. Your enemy is your brother, your faith, yourself. You are fighting against the will of fate itself, but there may be a way to break from that dark universe I have foreseen and create a new reality. A tangential path that leads away from inevitable darkness. The true path, the only way that will lead to freedom and peace for those caught in this sinuous web of death. I leave you now with your mission to break the chain of fate. Destroy the links of this chain. The fatal path on which we are set shall be rerouted. Ultimately, we must banish the monster from this world, but without first reclaiming our future, the fight will be lost before it has begun. Defend the future for all that you cherish. And that's it. Let you guys think that one over.